So let me guess, you think kobolds in D&D are lame?
Well, you know they are.
Let us show you why you're wrong.
Hey folks, Nerdarchist Dave from Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds, hanging out with this nerd today.
Nerdarchist Ted.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, a place for news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, as well as other role-playing games.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
Today we are going to be talking about kobolds, little devious, dastardly bastards of D&D. Since the very beginning, they've gone through some evolutions from a rat-dog combined creature to more draconic, majestic beings that they are today.
So we're actually on opposite sides of the fence, and when it comes to what kobolds we like better. You're more I want the dog face kobolds. I'm more like I like the more current draconic feel.
Like that 1E feel, I cannot deny.
But when it comes to using kobolds, there's a bunch of things that we should really, be aware of or consider, because they're not just things to, stick out there in front of players and have them get mowed down.
The thing about kobolds is never be afraid of the kobold that you see. Be afraid of the 50 you don't. They're like cockroaches.
Kobolds, when they're in an area, they're in an area. If you ever, kick over an anthill, ants go everywhere. That's really the way kobolds should be. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And that's why you can't just play them as a stand-up, straight-up fight monster, because they generally don't operate that way. So there's a couple considerations before we get into the ideas that we're going to do with this video, and that is kind of the Kobold Cavalry we want to play with a little bit. One is if you put them all together in one place, they're going to get all wiped out by fireball, so for a 5th level or higher party, so that's definitely consideration. That's why don't put all your kobolds in one basket.
Ambushes, things from both sides where if they're going to take them out, they're going to take themselves out too, and that's a no-go.
Yeah, kobolds, they're going to want to rain death from above. They're going to want to use murder holds, bottlenecks, all kinds of things that are going to be advantages to them, possibly low ceilings.
And let's not forget traps. Kobolds are all about the traps.
Yes, that actually may come up as a little bit of a problem or, a place for kobolds to take inspiration later on in this video. Before we get to that, let's discuss some ideas that we had for our Kobold Cavalry, some things that we could mix in.
If we're looking for awesome mounts, we should be able to, go and look at a place where you might be able to find that easily.
Yeah, D&D Beyond is a great resource that you can dive into for sorting and finding different monsters as well as player options. We love it. We use it all the time. We want to thank them for powering and sponsoring this video. Down in the description, you will find links to the individual monsters that we use over on D&D Beyond. Some of them are in the basic rules, so you can look at them for free. Some of them may not be, but D&D Beyond is a great digital resource. So we've got pretty much any giant variety of animal makes a good mount for the kobolds. You got bats and you got badgers, you've got crabs, you got frogs.
I mean, if you want to go flying besides bats, you could put them on the giant eagles, or if you really wanted something terrifying, you can go with a wyvern.
That's true. That would be like a whole battalion of kobolds on the wyvern. You're still going with that kind of like draconic feel. The biggest problem with that is, kobolds tend to be subterranean, and wyverns are going to, while you may find them in the mountains, it's going to be on the top and not so much inside. And kobolds really, with that sunlight sensitivity, do not like being outside in the bright daylight.
Absolutely. So why don't we, talk about the things that we did choose that would be awesome mounts for these kobolds.
All right. So we actually came up with a couple ideas to kind of like build out an encounter. For this encounter, we're going to go with 5 regular kobolds, 2 rust monsters, 1 carrion crawler, and 1 kobold scale sorcerer.
In D&D Beyond, there's a variety of different kobolds that you can use to, spice up encounters, like that. And we happen to select, the scaled sorcerer to have somebody with a little bit more power, reigning out.
Yeah, so the idea is we have 4 kobolds on the carrion crawler, maybe even like in a howdah, like a battle platform that they're using to use their slings from, the sorcerers casting spells, and then, they have their rust monsters that are going to rush out and start attacking and damaging the players' gear and weapons and armor.
And if you got any kobolds that are riding on the rust monsters, they're obviously just using clubs.
Yeah, they're using clubs to beat them with, or wooden spears. They already, for the most part, they're going to be in hide or leather armor anyway, so that's not going to be a threat. They might even be using traps and hazards. Obviously, these won't be mechanical in nature because they're not going to be able to use metal components, or the rust monsters might get distracted.
Pit traps or, holes that have been set up, boulders that can be, pushed or rolled off of a tripwire. Anything that non-metallic is going to be a lot of fun here.
Now, we went and plugged this encounter into Kobold Fight Club, and it comes up to be a decent encounter for 4-player characters of 5th level. And, you have some wiggle room where you could probably go down or up a little bit, depending on how hard you want to make this encounter.
Fun thing is, as we mentioned earlier, if you're using kobolds, this really should be something that is not a one stop that they're going to Nova on. There should be multiple encounters dealing with kobolds, and this is one that it's just going to be a little bit more spicy, a little bit more saucy.
Either they're going to be encountering things that kind of led up to this, or this is kind of going to be what they're going to use to soften up the players. Maybe they come in, the carrion crawler tries to paralyze a bunch of them. Maybe they grab one of the paralyzed ones and run off. And that's where actually this encounter can be really dangerous for the players. A couple bad rolls, they're paralyzed, they're going to be getting critted or just taken out of the fight. So this could be really tough.
Absolutely. We did a whole video on how dangerous the paralyzation condition is.
And not only that, your carrion crawler has the ability to climb up walls and ceilings. So, the kobolds might, take this into account and have themselves strapped into the howdah so that they can be firing from being upside down or other things, or maybe their chairs even kind of rotate in order so that they aren't upside down, even though the carrion crawler is. Carrion crawler is going to have a little bit of reach with those tentacles while the kobolds are trying to rain death from afar.
So, as with everything, location, location, location.
Intern Jake brought up the fact that maybe the stalagmites are hollowed out, and the kobolds could either use them for murder holes or just pop out of nowhere when the party is like, oh, this is only 6 kobolds and a couple monsters. We got this. Next thing you know, they're being swarmed by all these kobolds, which is very problematic too, because kobolds have pack tactics.
Absolutely. And imagine, the carrion crawler, climbs up to the ceiling. You've managed to knock out all the kobolds that's riding it. And when it gets to one of these stalactites, more kobolds start, attaching themselves to the carrion crawler.
Now let's talk about scaling up and down with this D&D encounters.
Absolutely. With the kobolds, you can always use more, but let's face it, kobolds can be weak. We did mention that there are a variety of other kobolds that can be found on D&D Beyond.
Right. Also, Tome of Beasts is another great place to look because, Kobold Press, it's right in their name.
Indeed.
But yeah, so you have the Dragon Shield kobolds. If you replace your mounted kobolds on the rust monsters with those guys, they're going to be tougher. You're going to go from an 8th to 1 CR, significantly tougher. Also, there is going to be Inventor kobold, which they're not actually tougher than regular kobolds, but man, are they interesting.
They got some new options.
You can attack the party with rock grub swarms, skunks, scorpions on a stick, pots of centipedes. These are all in the repertoire of those inventor kobolds. Imagine having the carrion crawler hoodas, but instead of your regular kobolds, you have them packed full of inventors, and they're using all these crazy weapons on the players. And now, if you wanted to add more to the encounter, and maybe you had 2 or 3 of these carrion crawler plankins, that would be pretty vicious.
Absolutely. And we also, you don't want to ignore the awesome fact of being able to apply the kobold set of abilities to any of the NPCs that are out there.
Speaking to that, one of my favorite page numbers in the DMG is 282 because it lists a bunch of different monstrous races and kind of like a stat template that you can put on your generic NPCs, turning your NPCs into that race, and instantly, in this case, kobold, almost any NPC you use is going to make them tougher than they already are.
We only have up to a challenge 2 kobold in there, but when you go to the back section of the book, all those NPCs, any of them can be a kobold. Awesome.
Now there are kobolds everywhere. Yeah, and you can flip to your DMG, or you can go to Chapter 9 for your DMG, or you can go to D&D Beyond, open up your DMG there. It's Chapter 9, Creating Monsters. You can find it in there.
So lots of awesome stuff. How would you use this in your game? Would you use this in your game? Down in the comments below, let us know. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can check the description where you can find links to D&D Beyond and the specific monsters that we talked about in this video.
So until next time, stay nerdy.